Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good almost. Well, it's not the next morning yet. So we're ahead of schedule already. This is the Missing Wolves post-game podcast, and I am your host, Andrew, who put up the wrong screen background for people on YouTube who are going to get real confused and think we're talking links because the corner's different. But anyways, I'm Andrew from Zone Coverage, and today we got Maxx Fuller, Howlin with the homies fame, Fox 9 KFAN celebrity. Maxx, how's it going, man?
I wouldn't say celebrity. You know, I got the Clark Kent glasses on. I'm incognito right now. You know, in case anybody did recognize me, I just put the Clark Kent glasses on. They'd be like, "Wow, that guy looks like Maxx, but Maxx doesn't wear glasses." You know, it's like it works similar to Superman. So I'm doing good, man. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here, dog. Like you're the one who's the hot young upstart in this business, dog. You're everywhere. You're on Fox 9.
It's so bad to be called a hot young upstart and be in my mid-30s. So thank you for
that one. It's true, dog. You're about to be on the 2026 Forbes 40 under 40, man. Like you're out here, bro. I'm honored just to be in your presence. I don't get invited on a lot of Wolves podcasts, so I'm genuinely honored and excited.
Which is wild because I feel like you are a voice of the Wolves. I mean, I see the fans, I see everyone banging on the fishbowl glass over at the KFAN. When's that starting up, by the way? Do you have any insight on that from KFAN?
Yeah, we got it cooking up. We definitely got it cooking up. You know, we were supposed to have a pregame today, you know, a little peek behind the curtain, but we messed up the timing and everything. So like we're gonna get the fan line cooking those soon, you know. So you're gonna be a part of that, you know, Tom, Parker, all the usual crowd. I want to just like make it just a whole community Wolves thing, but you know, right now we're doing the thing on the Missing Wolves.
Just expand the fishbowl out into the trophy case and just have like
the whole
cafeteria,
portable microphone and everything. That would be the goal. It's just to do literal live fan line and like pull people, real people, and just
what would be
right now.
That would be. I mean, I know you do that at the state fair. You take the mobile mic and go amongst the masses. Almost get beat up. Met a wrestler this year, which I am wearing my shirt. So
I did. Yeah, he was gigantic. Yeah, and I'm still, speaking of wrestling, I'm still, you know, tonight didn't help my emotions. I'm still a little raw after John Cena's retirement. So.
You know, I'll be honest. I'm glad we can all hate Gunther for the next decade, but that was tough watching. Big Match John tap out as his final, because he's never coming back, right? Like,
no, he's never coming back. Like, that's just kind of like a lot of people say they're never coming back, but I truly, unless the Saudi bag just comes so crazy, the blank check is so blank that even John Cena's morals and ethics can't resist it. But aside from that, I think it's like 99.9. That's the last time we saw John Cena in the ring. I was emotional. I was crying. Not quite as emotional tonight, but still it was I think it's safe to say arguably the worst loss of the season for the Timberwolves.
I'll give you arguably. I don't know, the Phoenix meltdown and the Memphis and the Sacramento meltdown come to mind for me. But before we get in tonight, I'm taking a page out of your book. I know you're all into letting fans know who you are behind the scenes, right? You absolutely. Always introduce me as either a Def Jam rapper or something to that extent, which yikes. But I've been thinking up of a question, and this comes from Twitter, because I was scrolling through Twitter, and there has been a influx of Waymo cars that get one, they drive by crime scenes and you just see like two people in a Waymo as a like police shootouts in the background. That's not what we're talking about. There's also been an influx of Waymo's locking mechanism trapping people in cars for like 6 hours.
No. What?
So I want to know, because they got to get like a tech to come out to unlock it.
No, I'm throwing people's elbows. There's no way I'm sitting in a Waymo car for 6 hours, dog.
So this is where my question comes. Any Wolves player, past or present, you are stuck in one of those tiny Waymos for 6 hours. Who would you pick and why?
Ooh, man, this is an amazing question. Honestly, the first person that came to mind, the first person that came to mind is Andrew Wiggins, because I just wanted to look him in his eyes like Glenn Taylor did and just see if I saw that same max contract, to see if I saw that same
5 hours and 57 minutes
yeah,
of eye contact.
Long enough, if I stared long enough, maybe I would have found that max contract in his eyes like Glenn Taylor did. But honestly, I'm going to go with Mark Mad Dog Madsen. That's
okay.
Mark Mad Dog Madsen, because after seeing him at the Lakers championship rally, I feel like he's a fun guy to hang out with, and it would just pretty much devolve into chaos and madness right away. Honestly, even though he's a recent addition to the Wolves, I would say out of the current Wolves, Bones Highland would be a fantastic person to be stuck in a Waymo car with. He just seems like the most jolly dude. We all need more Bones Highland in our life, not just like on the court. I just mean in general. I need to see Bones Highland in the next Marvel movie. I need to see Bones Highland at WrestleMania. I need to see Bones Highland running for office. Like, I need to see Bones Highland everywhere. So I would
Bones
go
Highland at WrestleMania. I feel like might be an actual thing. I can see that just happening.
I can see it happening.
You went completely opposite of me. I went like, who's most likely to have like a phone charger? Who smells better? Like who would I expect to like,
who's like the most
genuinely smell better? Right. Like who's going to be able to like tell me stories? So I went Mike Conley. Like that man.
That would be Mike Conley would be a good
manicured beard, like just everything. I was like, Mike is probably the safe bet. You're a complete chaos.
Some type of game system with them. People don't know he's like a gamer, so you probably have some type of. We just play Call of Duty for like 6 hours.
We're around the same age, so like we can talk about how Lockout was the best Halo 2 map. Like it just makes sense.
Right. Ask him who his party was in Final Fantasy VII.
Exactly.
All that kind of stuff. He would for sure. Mike Conley is a great answer. That's like he would be probably the most calming presence, because I would be freaking out for sure. So,
and I feel like Bones would bring the positivity, but after like 4 hours or so,
you're like, all right, dog, yeah.
I'm out of things. It's just dead silent. Both of your phones are dead, and you're just staring at the back of the front seat that no one is in.
Maybe I'll pick Jaden. Like he punched that brick wall. Maybe he can help me just punch through the glass on the back of the Waymo. We'll just get out of there real quick, because he's gonna be cool.
Jaden would be a good bet too.
Yeah, Jaden would be.
Jaden. There's enough wild card there where it's like, wonder how this is gonna go.
I know I'm not picking Kevin Garnett. I love the big ticket, favorite player of all time, but man, that's I'm not picking the big ticket in that situation. That's gonna get real.
Also, like the legroom situation, if you go someone like over 6'8", right, bleeding into your lap,
it's gonna get real claustrophobic real quick up in there.
All right, Max, let's talk some semblance of hoops here, which if anyone in the chat wants to bring up anything specific, this is a chat run show. Like we want to answer questions for you, but essentially Wolves kind of did that thing that they've been doing all season, where I think as soon as we saw Ja Morant was out, a lot of people started worrying that this might be a game that the Wolves lose or come close to losing, end up dropping it 116-110. I mean, I'm just going to ask you, like, how concerned are you of this a trend that they have? Honestly, like, there's enough of a sample size.
I'm pretty concerned, because like you said, it is a trend. It's that this Wolves team has been largely haunted by inconsistency, and one of the things that has been consistent is the inconsistency, especially the end of the game inconsistency. We've seen it against the upper echelon teams. We've seen it against lesser teams, like today against a depleted Memphis Grizzlies team, who, if you looked at the injury report, it looked like the end credits of a Hollywood blockbuster movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure I got a text from a Memphis area code today saying, "Where you at? Where you're supposed to be coming off the bench tonight." I just had my Tim, so I couldn't do it. So I mean, it's just kind of inexcusable, and it's this weird thing where I was thinking about it today, and I heard Marnie use the word compound after in the post game, and it kind of got me thinking, because it is compounding mistakes. It's not just one singular mistake that breaks the Wolves back. It's like this weird kind of reverse flow state that they get in, where it's just like a unconscious mistake after unconscious mistake, bad shot selection after bad shot selection. And listen, if anybody knows about a reverse flow state, it's me. That's basically my life 24/7. But unlike me, the Wolves are better than this. And if they can just limit those mistakes and kind of become, the difference between a regular artist and a master artist is the details, is attention to the details, right? And that's just kind of what they need to do. They have all the paints, they have a canvas, they're ready to go. They have beautiful artists, but they just need to start paying attention to those details. So I'm really concerned about this, because that's the difference. When you have a team that's pretty much perfect, that's the bar right now. And it's in other seasons, maybe it would be different, but right now the bar is a team that's damn near perfect in the Oklahoma City Thunder that you're going to have to face off on Friday night. That's the bar in the Western Conference right now. And it seems almost inevitable. It reminds me of those seasons when the Warriors had Kevin Durant, where it doesn't, not to say it doesn't matter what happens over the next couple months, but who's going to be there at the end of the day, and it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. And what have you done to close the gap since last year's Western Conference Finals? And it seems like right now, not that much, and that's the team that's the picture of consistency. And right now the Wolves are kind of the picture of inconsistency. So it seems like they're almost on opposite ends of the spectrum right here. So I'm pretty concerned. How about you?
I'm not concerned about it when playoffs arise. I just worry that they are going to get themselves in a situation where they're playing like the Lakers in the play-in, and then the winner of that plays the Nuggets, and then the winner of that plays the Rockets, and then the winner of that plays Oklahoma City. And you might have been able to avoid playing, 4 of the best 6 teams if you just won some of these games early on in the season. But like, it's almost, you hear about like the championship hangover, right? Where like they're just ready for the playoffs already. Like that's kind of how this team feels. Like, I don't think they get really high or really low. I don't think they're like, I don't think it's like a coaching issue. Like Finch came into the press conference and had no voice, like after 5 minutes of being in the locker room. Like, I don't think he's just like not, I don't think it's like he's not telling these guys to try or something like that. And like we see these glimpses, right? Like they put 6 minutes together in the fourth quarter against Golden State without Ant, and it's just they close the door. So like that ceiling is there. It's just really frustrating because you can kind of see the trend that happened last season where we're going to get to February and this team's going to have to win like 11 out of 13 games to avoid the play-in, and they might do it or they might not, but it's going to be really hard to go through the Western Conference if you don't at least set yourself up with like a manageable first round series, preferably at home. I think the thing I'm more concerned about is, you touched on it a little bit, is just like the reverse flow of when this team starts to, like, if they're having a shooting night that isn't going their way, or if they start to feel like that adversity, it's just gets so sticky where I don't know if it's guys don't think the ball's going to rotate back around. I don't know if everybody's trying to do too much, but like we even saw it with Bones tonight where like he's calling it an isolation pick and roll and then does like a 2 dribble step back heave. And it's just like, maybe there's a better option than like 8 seconds into the shot clock, Howlin going his own number. And that's kind of what Finch talked about post-game, was just like the decision making in these moments needs to be better. And it's like, how do you get that to be better? Which, I mean, I'll ask you, like, what do you think it is that's causing this?
I think you hit it the nail on the head, and it's kind of been something that has been the Achilles heel for the Wolves, I think, for a couple of years now. I feel like I've said this a million times. It's like the worst version of this team is when it devolves into ISO ball, regardless of who is. And sometimes it works because you have the best player on the floor in Anthony Edwards, and you just get bailed out by stuff like that. But we saw it tonight when you don't have an Anthony Edwards and you devolve into that ISO ball. It doesn't work. And it was a tale of two halves, because I thought it felt like if they would have won, we would have been talking about this maybe being a breakthrough game for the bench. in that first half, because they went on like a 14-2 run, and I think all 14 of those points were scored by the bench. Rob Dillingham scored or assisted on like something like 8 of those. Naz Reid was on fire. It felt like a game where it's like, oh my God, it's one of those games where you start to talk about, well, maybe it's a silver lining that Anthony Edwards was out, because, you know, a lot of the times it felt like it was largely on his shoulders in a lot of these games. But now the scoring seemed to be more distributed, more shared. I think 3 different players, including I think Bones, Naz, and somebody else, all were in double digits by halftime. And then again, like we just talked about, it dries as soon as the shots start to dry up a little bit. This team immediately devolves into hero ball, and that's the worst version of itself. And it sucks not having Mike Conley too, not just for the potential shot making, but just having that calming presence to be like, guys, let's chill out, or having an Anthony Edwards who hits a shot in the middle of those droughts to make it feel like, whoof, okay, we're okay. But you have to still find out, you still have to figure out how to navigate those situations without guys like that. And it felt like tonight, they just kind of, again, they got into that reverse flow state, that weird, bizarro world where everything up is down and left is right, and everything starts to compound upon each other. And it's not just one mistake, it's 2, 3, 4. And then all of a sudden, the gap is not insurmountable, but it's really hard to get to. Because, like, obviously, they made a little run there at the end of the game. They just couldn't close it. And it comes down to those 1 or 2 moments that they wish they had back. One of those 1 or 2 turnovers, or those bad shots that they end up taking. And, you know, it's unfortunate that this has been the one kind of consistent thing that's been happening with the Timberwolves, and they've had these miraculous fourth quarters that have bailed them out of otherwise pretty bad games. But I think they just have to find a way to find some type of consistency and some type of calm in the middle of these, to weather these storms at the end of these games. Otherwise, because you're going to face off against teams like the Nuggets that are more than capable of bringing these storms. The Lakers with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves that are more than capable of bringing these storms. And the Thunder, I mean, hell, it's literally their name. So, like, you're going to have to find a way to weather these kind of situations. And if you can't do it against a Grizzlies team that had Jaren Jackson's auntie basically out there because they didn't have enough players, I mean, then you're not going to be able to do it against the upper echelon of the Western Conference. So it was a disappointing outcome tonight for sure.
You mentioned Mike Conley, which I've been kind of banging the, like, you can't trade Mike Conley. He's pretty much untouchable, because, like, this is what this team is without Mike Conley. Like, Mike Conley sparks a lot of those fourth quarter, like, runs, because he comes in, plays 3 minutes in the fourth quarter, and everybody just chills the F out, for like lack of a better term. Everyone calls down. Like, talked to Rudy about it after the game, and Rudy was just kind of like, we're still trying to figure out, like, who that guy is on our team that can settle us down when we start to get frustrated or start to feel like the offense isn't moving right. And, like, I think in a way it kind of sucks that it's still Mike Conley that does this for this team, because he can't play more than 15 minutes a game. Like, he's playing 12 minutes a game and he gets, like, Achilles tendonitis. That's absurd. Like, that is an old man injury. And, like, they kind of got to figure it out, because you're right. Oklahoma City, this is what they live off of. They live off of mistakes. Their offense is honestly beatable. It's the fact that they turn people over at such a high rate that they're in transition half the game. Godfrey mentions in the chat here, we should trade for Sam Presti. I think the fact that Oklahoma City is the best team in the league by far and has 2 lottery picks next year is a good track record.
10 until like 2029 or something like that. It's like a ridiculous amount that doesn't even seem like a real stat. They have,
if the season ended today, they would have the 3rd overall pick and the 8th. Like, it's obnoxious. Like, I second trading for Sam Presti.
I'm with that, Godfrey. You're an elite basketball mind.
Godfrey says Reed Shepherd is scoring 50 on Conley. I mean, that's the problem, is, like, he just can't do it anymore. And I think there was a lot of hope in the building that it would be Rob just taking this opportunity. And if Rob didn't, then you have Dante, who's a capable, NBA player. But it is tough on nights like tonight where like they should have won this game. I mean, they have the talent over whatever this Memphis team was. But I mean, that's the NBA. Like, if you don't come locked in and ready to go, like any team can beat any team. It's tough how often it happens with the Wolves.
For sure. And it seemed like, and I mean, just in general, like just kind of questionable strategy to go at former defensive player of the year, Jaren Jackson Jr., like again and again and again and again. But that just kind of goes into that reverse flow state where it just seems like it's like the worst possible decision. But yeah, it is kind of consistently happening. And I do think an underrated part of it is what you mentioned a few minutes ago, not quite like a championship hangover, because obviously they haven't won a championship, but this is a team that's gone to back-to-back Western Conference finals and didn't necessarily have to have like the craziest regular season to do so. So it is human nature to kind of feel like, all right, well, we'll flip that switch. We'll turn it on once the playoffs come, and it's hard not to read that into the way that they're playing right now. And I do think that's kind of an underrated aspect of it, because this is largely the same team that went to back-to-back Western Conference finals. So how would you not feel like that, just from a human standpoint? So I think it's just a lack of focus at times. And yeah, just that reverse flow state, kind of compounding these mistakes, not necessarily having a go-to thing that they can do to get that needed bucket. They kind of don't have their identity right now, which is a weird thing to say about a team that is, again, pretty much the same from last season. They still don't have an identity. I feel like it's like me in high school, dog. I had the fro hawk at one point. I had a flat top at one point. I was wearing the triple XL T-shirts, Kool-Aid Man T-shirt with matching purple hat, purple shirt, purple shoes. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I don't know who the hell I was. And eventually I found the afro, and I was just like, you know what? I think this is it. This
is the lifestyle.
Right. This is the lifestyle. This is who I am. The Wolves have to find their version of the afro. They have to find who they are. They're going through their frohawk phase right now. They're going through their hot topic graphic T-shirt phase right now, their mall belt buckle phase right now. But eventually, I think, and this has kind of been who they have been over the last couple of seasons. Once the calendar flips, they look themselves in the mirror, and they're able to kind of lock it in and figure out what kind of team they're going to be. But right now, I think more than other years, they're stuck in this weird. Before it was, okay, defense is our anchor, defense is our calling card, and it still is, but it feels like it's more in the middle than it ever was before.
I do want to ask you more about that. I'm going to throw us over to a quick ad read here quick.
Yeah.
2 quicks in one sentence. We're going to do an ad read, and then I do want to talk to you more about the identity stuff, because I do think you're spot on with that, but Bills. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard, and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. So, Max, I do want to get your thoughts on the identity thing, because I think you're right that there's just these battling identities. Like Rudy Gobert, I think, is one of the perfect examples of when Rudy is on the court, this team has the second best defensive rating in basketball. When he is off the court, they have the 29th defensive rating in basketball. It is second best to second worst just by the Frenchman existing. But the offense has a similar swing where it goes from a top 10 offense to a bottom 10 offense when Rudy is off versus on. I mean, you see when like Bones and Jalen or Rob and Jalen or anyone with Jaden McDaniels, this team plays significantly faster. They're pushing the ball in transition. They're trying to get fast breaks. But then when you see Julius out there and Dante out there, they are slowing it down. They're bringing it up and kind of plodding. And like, I do think there's a benefit to having like different play styles, because like in the playoffs you got to try different things, but it's like so black and white right now where Rudy is the epitome. Like if you're going to embrace defense and embrace Rudy, like you got to play that style, and it can't be just terrible when he's off. If you want to play fast, you got to get those two guys to play faster. If you want to slow it down, you got to get the other guys to like chill out a little bit. I mean, what do you make of the like vast difference between, it seems like just different rotations, even different players?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right about this, like almost chameleon-like nature. But I feel like the best teams, even with different players that have different skill sets, everybody's able to be kind of on that same page. We're going to play tempo in this way. We're going to be the 3-point shooting teams, whatever. And like you said, there is an advantage to it, but there's also in these clutch moments, if you're having to stop and think, you know, who am I on the floor? What kind of style are we playing as in the sense of where it could just be unconscious, where it's like, let's just push the ball up, where it's sometimes like even tonight I saw, like you said, when there's certain people on the floor, when there's certain rotations on the floor, it's more up tempo. But then you saw tonight, there's some times where they're in transition. It seems like they didn't really know what to do. They're like, okay, let's be up tempo. Like they've decided we're going to be up tempo, but then they're up tempo. And then it's like, well, what do we do now? You know, like they just seemed a little bit lost. They didn't know what to do. And I think they have to try to find, it's okay to have that chameleon-like nature, that Swiss Army knife, where depending on the lineup, you can play this and that way. Every team has to do that to a degree, but you have to find that underlying identity, whatever that is. You have to find that underlying identity that's always gonna be there, you know, that kind of like that centerpiece, you know, like when you got a charcuterie board. I've never made a charcuterie board. I'm broke as hell. I barely even ate off a charcuterie board, but I know there's always a centerpiece of the board. You know, there's always that one thing that everything is kind of centered around. You could have you could have Gouda, you could have pepper jack, you could have some salami and some ham and some turkey and whatever, but it's all surrounded around that centerpiece. They got to have that anchor, that identity. And in the past, like we've said, it's been that their defensive identity, and they're still, you know, a top 10 defense. It doesn't necessarily feel like that, but if you go to, you know, ESPN.com, they're a top 10 defense in this league, but it just doesn't feel as, I guess, as anchoring as it was in the past, because of this chameleon-like nature of the team, because sometimes they look like the best defense in the league, and then Rudy sits down for a second, and then they look like the worst defense in the league. And I do think part of the identity thing, a big part of the identity thing, is that for the most part, I think the starting lineup has their identity. I think it's once you start to get to the bench, and the bench has obviously kind of had their struggles throughout the season. I think when they put it up, you know, throughout the season, the Grizzlies had one of, if not the best bench unit in the league when it comes to scoring, and the Wolves were 27th or 28th or 29th. And again, if they had won this game, found a way to pull this out, I would have said, hey, this is a breakthrough game for the bench, because they were the anchor of the teams. They were the centerpiece of the offense for the most part throughout this game, I felt like. But I feel like in large part, the bench doesn't really. Naz Reid knows who he is, and Naz Reid is always going to be Naz Reid. He's still right up there as one of the best 6 men of the year, but it's just kind of like the rest of the bench and figuring out how they all gel together. It's obviously full of talented players. Jalen Clark, I mean, man, how fun is that guy to watch?
Oh yeah.
I want
to ask you about the bench too, because I feel like last year, kind of no matter what happened, which Professor loved your cheese analogy, so bring on more.
Thanks, Prof.
Anyways, like I feel like last year you had Nikhil, Dante, and Naz, and you had three guys on the bench that just knew what they were. Dante is your gunner. He's going to just take threes, get open. He can hit from anywhere when he's out there. People respect him, like draws the defense out. Nikhil, kind of your Swiss Army knife, and then Nas. And Mike obviously still starting at that time. This year, Mike just doesn't have the same role. Like he doesn't have the same juices last year. Dante's in the starting lineup. Nikhil goes to Atlanta, and you're really banking on at least one of TJ, Jalen, Rob, and now I guess Bones to just establish themselves. And TJ, if you're looking at net ratings and you're kind of looking at the advanced analytics, he's arguably been one of the worst players on the roster, which some of that's injury, some of that's growing pains. He's now on a scouting report. Like that stuff matters. Rob has had a lot of okay games, but not a lot of good games. And Jalen, for all of the awesome stuff he does defensively, he can get foul happy. He's been struggling with his shot. I mean, we saw him, I think, shoot a floater that missed everything and fell on the opposite side of the ring. Yeah. Now kind of seeing in this game the downside of Bones of like that guy is a shot maker. He has supreme confidence, but sometimes you'd like to see someone else take that shot instead of so you just kind of have this foursome of guys that you were hoping someone would show you something, and really it hasn't been much of that. I mean, what do you make of kind of that group of four guys? I mean, I know you mentioned you want to be in the Waymo with Bones, so I have an idea of where your confidence lies, but like it has been kind of disappointing that just none of them have really taken this spot that they've had an opportunity for.
Yeah, and it is disappointing because I feel like we all thought that this team was so deep that any of those guys should, given the opportunity, would have filled that role in that vacuum by now. And it's kind of collectively, maybe collectively in a game, but their combined efforts will get you something that can get you a win. But right now, there's not really that guy that has that defining role, like you said, outside of Naz Reid. I think we thought Terrence Shannon was going to be, right away, plug and play, the guy that we saw in the playoffs, all gas, no breaks. And he hasn't been playing that way. And obviously, like you said, the statistics show that it's been much worse than just average. It's not just middling. It's been really bad. And obviously that's, as a young player, that's going to affect your confidence. And speaking of confidence, that's been something that Rob Dillingham has been dealing with pretty much throughout his entire Wolves tenure. And there's spurts here, like that 14-2 run where he's just, dishing and diming. And then I think not that long after that, he turned it over 2-3 times in a row. And that's just kind of like and then, a guy blows past him on defense. And then you're getting the light and the dark of the Rob Dillingham experience all in a 5-minute time span. And because you have a guy like Nas that's so experienced, it kind of ends up like saving the day sometimes for that bench unit. But all those guys need to find their roles. And Jalen Clark is awesome. He's always going to be a great defender. Yes. But like if this team is going to take that next leap, we got to find points from other places too. Because obviously Rudy Gobert has been a way more of a factor offensively this season. He's got way more of a connection, I think, with Julius and Jaden. I think Jaden has as many assists to him right now as he did at the end of the season. I think I stole that from one of your zone coverage articles because you guys know the ball, and I steal stuff from you guys all the time and pretend that it's mine. And that's
public knowledge. It's fine. If I can Google it, you can steal it.
That's what the grades do. They have to steal from the actual grades. The real ball knowers like you guys and you people at zone coverage and you specifically. So obviously Rudy's been more of a part of this offense. Jaden McDaniels has taken, I feel like, a huge leap offensively, not necessarily so tonight, but throughout the season in general. But we have to find that offensive spark somehow from the bench unit. We have to find ways to get points from the bench unit, because if we could even get 8, 9, 10 points a night from a guy like a Jalen Clark or Rob Dillingham, or Terrence Shannon Jr., that's the difference in some of these games. The Wolves aren't necessarily getting smoked by in these losses, so that's the difference right there. If we could just get we're not asking them to, to turn in Jamal Crawford here. You don't have to be, perennial sixth man of the year. We already got that. We already got Naz Reid. But we just need guys to kind of just step up and fill that Nikhil kind of role, fill that Dante kind of role. And obviously, yeah, like you said, we can't ask too much of Mike at this point. It's a morale thing. And, whenever Mike hits a shot at all, it's just like, hey, hell yeah, he's the fifth oldest player in the league. It's just like, let's go. Let's celebrate this guy. He's the best guy ever. So you can't ask too much of him at this point in his career. So the young guys got to step up. And right now it's hard because it's all based off of potential. And we know they have all the potential in the world. It's just about finding ways to tap into that. And maybe it is more structure with the bench unit. Maybe it's calling more plays. Maybe it's mixing them in a little bit more with the veteran guys. I don't know what necessarily it is. But there has to be a way to tap into it because we know how talented these guys are. We see it in spurts, albeit, but we see what the ceiling can be. And it's really exciting because if those guys could even tap into half of what they're going to be someday, fingers crossed. And that completely changes everything for the trajectory of this Wolves team.
Well, and that's the new NBA with the aprons, right? Is you got to hit on draft picks and they got to be productive. I mean,
it's almost Denver at this point.
It really is. Like if you get a guy on a rookie contract, that's awesome. Look at the Spurs with Wemby. They're able to put 97 good players around him and make a run when Wemby's in his third year. I do think, hitting on those guys is important, but it's also the NBA is just hard. Like I don't doubt that part of TJ's struggles is there is now a full scouting report on him.
Yeah.
Like any team that has defenders that look at Memphis. Like I'm sure Jalen Wells was reading the TJ Shannon scouting report and was like, well, he can't really shoot with his right hand yet. And he plays too far off on defense. So he's always recovering. And we see it again tonight. It's Rob is kind of the same way of like, if he can crack his confidence, he'll start turning the ball over. And, part of that is just being a young player. And I kind of say it pretty often of like, if Rob was on Utah and was allowed to have 11 turnovers a game, he'd probably be scoring like 34 points and people would be super excited for him. Same with TJ. Like if that guy was just allowed to like bowl into the lane and,
that's a
he
great
could
point.
work through that stuff. Like he probably would work through it faster, but that's just not the reality of being the eighth guy on the Timberwolves right now. Like they need 10 good minutes and that's it. And you're 100% right. That's the difference between probably losing and winning this game is like those 10 good bench minutes that the Wolves just haven't gotten consistently yet, which, hopefully Ant comes back and you can get 10 good bench minutes from Bones instead of relying on him for 30 something. And maybe that solves it. But until then, we're kind of in this weird purgatory where it's, wondering what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think that, like you said, if in a more limited exposure, Bones can be a really great addition to that bench unit. He's kind of that swagger that they're missing when Anthony Edwards isn't on the floor.
100%.
And that guy that can just he's not just out there, moving the ball around, but he's the guy. He's making you feel, he's throwing you the passes that you're wide open. And you're like, oh, okay. And he's like, he's the hype guy. When you get it from him, it just feels different, And I feel like he can bring that swagger that they just don't necessarily have when Anthony Edwards isn't on the floor, and that could be super beneficial for the young guys like TJ and like Rob and like Jalen. So I think in a more limited sense that Bones is going to be awesome for that bench unit. But yeah, is it the be all, the end all, the solving piece? It might just be a Band-Aid on a gash, and there's deeper problems there. But for now, I think it could be something that's really beneficial for that bench unit. And before I forget, this is completely off topic from what we're talking about. I just got to say, seeing Brandon Clark ball out again tonight is giving me flashbacks from a couple years ago. What a
oh
night,
my
man.
gosh, it was
no, it's his first game, and I mean, of course it's against the Timberwolves. There's no more
where he's going to grab 37 offensive rebounds,
right, every single time. It's just like, God, I feel like Dwayne Wade in those old commercials, just waking up in a hot sweat. I finally expelled Brandon Clark from my mind, and then he comes back to haunt me again on a random Wednesday, December night in a regular season game. Good for the Grizzlies to have him back, but man, that one hurt. And shout out to Jock Lawndale for continuing the time-honored tradition of random white people just completely balling out on the Timberwolves. White players that nobody's ever heard of, absolutely torching the Timberwolves. Jock Lawndale, that doesn't even sound like a real person. That sounds like a character from Degrassi. Like, his name is literally Jock. And I think I read or I heard the Grady say over the announcement that he made more shots than the Wolves did in the second half.
So Jock Lawndale, basketball nerds like me, are just hoping he gets traded to the Wolves because, like, the Australian connection.
I was unaware of his game until tonight.
Get three just gangly white Australian guys on the team. Like, it would be great. It'd just be great for the city. Like, Alana Smith, I think, is still employed by the Lynx. Maybe they could all get like an apartment complex together. I am pushing that narrative, but yeah, it is tough that, like, you know, Rudy's like trying to help underneath the rim, and then Jock Lawndale is just draining threes, and it's like, what is happening? Why? How is this our life? We take the Thunder to the brink in a game, and then 2 weeks later, Jock Lawndale is torching us.
It embarrasses the whole squad. Like,
it's the life of a Wolves fan,
right?
Max,
that's 25.
Max, I appreciate you coming on, man. I do want to give you space. Anything you want to shout out, anything you want to promote, where can people find you? What are you up to nowadays?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I want to promote my good friend Andrew Dukowitz, because he's the man.
You are too kind.
Honestly, like, dude, I'm so proud of you. It's so cool. I had the biggest smile on my face seeing those ad reads pop up in the middle of this. Dude. Like, that is so freaking awesome, man. Like, you are doing your thing. You're a real ball knower. You're growing your audience every single day, and you're on the freaking ground doing the hard work. I know I always joke about it, dog. Every single shot that anybody's ever taken on a basketball court in Minnesota, you've probably analyzed it, dog. I just got a couple shots up just to warm up the other day. You had a whole report on zonecoverage.com 45 minutes later, and you were right. I do need to work on my mid-range game. So, dude, you're the hardest working dude in show business right now, and you're getting rewarded for it. That's what I want to shout out. Yeah, I'm on KFAN. Yeah, I'm on Fox Time. Blah blah blah. But, like, you're the man. This is the place to be. I'm truly, genuinely honored to be on your show, man. And I just want to shout you out. That's what I'm going to use that time for.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. It's always fun chopping it up with you, whether it's on KFAN, Fox, or even here. We got to make this a more regular thing because it's always a blast.
Anytime.
We will be back post game again after Friday's game against the Thunder. Ooh. Wilder Adams from Wilder Wolves will be joining me, and until then, I don't know. Go Wolves, I guess. Everyone,
Wild, they're winning.
Yeah, go Wild. They have a new star player they traded for, right?
Quit